We can put the starter in. We can make a couple of battery cables. We can fire this thing up and finally hear it run for the first time. Good morning, ladies and gents. It's Monday. We're going to do some more work on the 75 K10 today. Boss man came in and painted the defrost vent areas this weekend. Noah got to wet sanding finally. They got some of the trim on. The back window and the windshield are going in today. I'm going to continue trucking along on the stuff that I have to do inside. You see the cluster panels back off. We're going to leave that off until, I believe, Tuesday. My Prindle is going to be here so we can button that up 100%. But let me go show you the fenders for this thing. So tell me these fenders with the trim on it are not some of the prettiest things you've ever seen. The only thing we don't have in it, we do have them. They're over there. We have our LED markers for the front and rear. But beautiful. The way it separates those two colors. It frames it nicely. Brand new emblems on here. But yeah, he's wet sanding this one. This one was already done. And he's in the middle of wet sanding the bed too. So let me move the tank out of here because I believe this guy is picking this up today. And then we have a battery over here for the K10. I believe, which fender is that? That is the one that's done. Oh, perfect. It's the passenger side. Because for me to be able to put this battery in, we need to put that fender in because the battery tray is anchored through two holes to the fender. So I don't want to throw the battery in it right now because it's not, anchored to anything. And once the battery's in, my starter is over here somewhere. It's right there. We can put the starter in. We can make a couple of battery cables. We can fire this thing up and finally hear it run for the first time. What's going on, guys and girls? I'm doing some stuff today. It's Tuesday? I didn't do any filming yesterday because we just kind of went at it, getting the stuff done that we needed to get done in the shop. Plus the glass guy was here, putting the glass in both the 75 and the 68 step side over here. We finally got our trim plate in, so this is all in. Our seats are back, but more importantly, I got something to show you on the truck. I got to do some shimming on the starter. We just ran out of shims, but we are running. Except for that shim that needs to be put in the starter. So we're good to go. It's going to idle down. I can't let it warm up because we still don't have any transmission lines in it. So, I don't want to be running the transmission dry. I just put the new power steering pump in yesterday. I don't have any fluid in that yet either. But as you heard with that starter, that's the new starter from the 2000s or so Silverado 4.3. We just didn't have any shims here. So I got a couple of makeshift shims in there. They weren't good enough to space it properly, but it runs. And it runs good, nice and smooth. I've got to take the idle way down, as you could hear. But like I said, I can't let it warm up yet to do those kind of settings. But what I'm going to do now is get all the seats into the Camaro, get the interior done except for bolting the console in because I have to put it up in the air to bolt in the console. And then we're going to move the 92 because I have some quick maintenance to do on one of the shop guys' trucks. And then we'll pull the 92 back in. And I believe we're going to start on this today. All right, ladies and gents. Welcome to day one of installing a Holley Sniper 2, a PDM, and a Hyperspark 2 on this 92 Chevy 1500 that has factory TBI. So the first thing I did was took a good long look inside this engine bay at my available real estate, at where I'm going to mount all this stuff, because I have the coil, the module for the ignition, and the PDM to mount. There's not a lot. I did notice we've got our coolant bottle there. There's no real need for a coolant bottle that big, so I said, let me remove it and see what's behind it. So I did. It's a good amount of usable space, and what I think I came up with, we'll set the tripod up here, is this. Let me angle you so you can see. There you go. I believe we're going to mount the coil up here on some standoffs, the Hyperspark box down here on some standoffs, and then underneath all that we will mount our PDM on some standoffs. I think that's going to be my best plan of attack for in here, because there is, like I said, not a lot of room. 95% of all this wiring is coming out, because this is all emission stuff and engine control stuff that we are not reusing with the Sniper. The only stuff I'll really have to fish out of it is the stuff for my alternator, the stuff for my air conditioner, and I believe really that's it. Everything else I'm going to be wiring in myself. I can use my wires off of my existing coil to be my power feed and stuff for this new ignition system. Everything else is, oh, actually, sorry, I forgot. We're using a PDM, so I don't need any of that stuff. It's all going to be direct battery power and then inputs off of all this stuff into here. So that just simplified that even more. I got so far ahead of myself, I forgot what we were even doing. All right, so I'm going to make some holes in the firewall and mount some modules and a PDM, and I'll bring you back after we get that in there. All right, 1 of 3 mounted. Obviously, there's plenty of clearance by that hood hinge. I already checked. There's plenty of clearance by the hood, too. So I'm just going to mount the PDM and my other module. Oh, it's up there. And we'll go from there. After that, before I do anything under the hood, we're going to be unbolting the bed to take the bed off so I can do the in-tank fuel pump swap. I'm just going to add in here, I'm not looking forward to doing that because it's not pretty underneath this bed. All right, we're all mounted. Minus a couple bolts. I got one down there I got to get to and one down there I got to get to, but that's how it's going to be mounted. I also realized I'm over here working in the dark like a dummy when I've got my light. So we're going to put this truck up in the air now, and we're going to start taking off some of these bed bolts, take the tail lights out and whatnot, and get this bed up and moved so I can get to the fuel pump to put in our Holley in-tank Sniper fuel pump. All right, first step was to get it up in the air. Second step was to get under here and look, and as you can see, we've got wires that are randomly run and zip tied to the bed cross members. This is, I know a guy who can wire up that rear view camera for you. That's basically what this is. But there's a lot of stuff like that. There's been a lot of fiberglass work on this bed. Where is it? Here you can see fiberglass work is cracking. So I am doing my best to figure out a way to move it. We're not dropping the tank because it's not really something that's going to be possible with this style mount. Plus these are extremely crusty, and this inside, it's all going to show you that because that's extremely crusty and somebody did some backyard welding on there. But we're going to start undoing all of my bed bolts, as you can see one right there, so I can essentially pick this bed up and move it backwards so that this brace is resting on top of the tire, and we'll have to put something in the back here because the way I used to do them back in the dealership days when I worked for GM was you would rest this brace on the bumper, but we don't have a bumper because we have the world's loosest roll pan in here, but it'll work. And the reason I'm doing that, the other reason is you have 4 fuel lines, or 4 lines going to your tank here. You have supply, return, vent, and I can't remember what the other one is, but they're all pains in the butts, and they are all what do you call it? None of them are clamp fittings or push pin fittings. They're all like screw in, not AN, but what do you call them? I can't remember what the name of them is right now, but they're a pain in the butt. See, once I get the bed off, I'll show you, and you'll see it's much easier to do it this way than it is to try to drop that tank and undo all of those connections at the same time. All right, bed's up there, truck's down here. So this is exactly why I told you it's a massive pain in the butt to try to remove it. It's all flare fittings. So I am going to undo those, undo my vent, whatever, pressure tube, undo my wires for that, and pull this sender out of there, and then get this new fuel pump installed. All right, here we go. So here's your stock pump that's been pulled out. This is my sniper pump that's going back in to replace this, and we're using a regular regulator up on the firewall for a return system, and that is going to go through. You got your supply right there. You have evap line, which is the small barb fitting, and the other one with the fitting, actual fitting on it, is your return, and that return dumps right back down here, which will fill your bucket that's down there, so you don't get any fuel loss during cornering and whatnot, and acceleration mainly with the tank lengthwise like this. But I'm going to go on the bench now, and we're going to start swapping over that pump into this whole housing assembly. All right, so we're in the vise. So what we're going to do is undo this connector. We're going to snip or cut off these clamps, and we're going to remove this pump. So what they give you is your pump. They give you new clamps, which I'm not too crazy about using worm clamps in the tank, so I'm going to find some Oetker clamps. So we have a 100% awesome positive seal on those. And they even give you a new sock. So we're going to swap this stuff onto that. And for the wiring, I am going to cut, crimp, and heat shrink and completely seal the positive and negative to the fuel pump up here. So as you can see, our fuel pumps, give or take a millimeter, are the same length. So all of that should go right into here with no issue. I say that, but we'll see if there's an issue. Oh, one important thing I want to bring up here. If you're doing one of these conversions, so the factory fuel pump is under 20 psi and still dripping fuel. You're replacing that with a 60 psi capable fuel pump. Here's one thing you need to make sure to remember. This line that's on here, I don't know if it's rated high pressure or not, but don't chance it, because I'm almost 99% sure this is like, you know, it's braided, but it's also old as dirt. So just replace this with some known good high fuel pressure rated line. And there you have it. Here's the finished product. So we now have a 60 psi capable fuel pump where our 15 psi used to be. You will see I did not use Oetker clamps because we are out of this size, but I have these 360 degree band clamp styles that Holley gives with all its sniper kits, and I've used these before and there's no problem. I also swapped out this hose with some Gates hose we have that is a 145 psi rated, and double clamped it up top. So down bottom it's ribbed, up top it's just a like a regular fuel line indent. It's not ribbed, so 2 clamps, that's good. That ain't gonna go anywhere. So we are now going to take this and install it back into the truck. All right, well, we're all back together with the exception of this hose that I got to throw on there still. I checked it before and after putting the lines on to make sure the pump is in fact working, and it is. And to my surprise, this thing actually started and ran. So the regulator that, I think how these were, it was built into, just like the old Sniper one, it was built into the base of the unit, the regulator, or into the jetting in top. It's regulating this 60 psi back down to 15, so I don't want to keep doing that because obviously that's not good for anything, especially the pump. But that means we can lower the bed back down, turn the vehicle around, put it back in the air and tighten that and be 100% done in the rear of the vehicle. All right, ladies and gents, pump is in. Like I said, everything's been tested. I'm going to hook up the vent line. Now I'm going to fix that crimp and get rid of that because that's a non-weather tight crimp on a ground wire, which is your main ground for your fuel pump, so that's not spectacular. I'm also going to fix a couple other things. They've got a rear view camera wired in here. Where is that terminal? Is it up here? It's somewhere. They used a ring terminal for, here it is. So you've got, they use that for a ground. And they just kind of clamped onto part of this one. And I don't even know how this is on here. I believe this is a yellow, not weather tight crimp attached onto this tiny little, what is this, a 16 gauge wire? So yeah, so I'm going to take care of that too. Just a couple things that I want to take care of because I just can't in good conscience put it back together like that, even though it's not an issue or my problem, but I'm still going to fix that. And then we're going to jump in the front, or then we're going to put this down, turn it around, put it back up in the air. I'm going to put all the bed bolts back in because this will be 100% done, fix all this stuff, then we'll jump in the front. And I'll start doing some preliminary wiring and start taking apart some of the stuff on the engine to get prepared for the Sniper 2 install. All right, let's see if I can get this back down by myself and lined up. You know what we should do first? I should reattach that line. Oh. All right, so we're going to lower this thing back down. I'm going to do this by myself because Noah's not here today. So basically I have to come down onto the frame and then roll the frame back a little bit because the back of the frame horns don't clear the roll pan. So I've got to go down and then back and then sit everything flat, and then I can pull it out, pull it back in, put some bed bolts in. I tightened that, I fixed that crimp that was screwed up there, so I think we're good. Let's see. Get ready for the world's slowest lift. And this brings me back to 2001 when I used to work on these all the time. Oh, I gotta get this thing popped up. Oh, we gotta go back up a little. There we go. This is the only suck part, is just getting this filler neck lined back up in here. All right, so we are, I believe, good to roll back now. Let me make sure we're in neutral. We are. And make sure we're cleared back here. We are. So now I can roll back a little bit. So give me 1 second here. Oh, I'm actually resting on the frame. There we go. So I'm going to roll this back and then lock the e-brake. It's very scientific stuff. Ow, just hit the friggin' microphone off of the door. Roll back right there. All right. Just popped up here. I'm probably going to have to do a bunch of movement once I get it, you know, up in the air, just to line the holes up again, but it's going to be minimal. You know, a little bit side to side, a little bit front to back. But that's pretty straight right there. I think I gotta definitely go forward a little bit. We will see though. Now I can kick the lift out from under this thing. Then I'll pull it outside, pull it back in, bring it back, and see how far off I am. All right, we're back in. We're turned around. Lift's underneath it. It's time to go up. All right, let's take a look under here and see how far off my lineup is. Let's see where we are. Okay, so yeah, so I gotta come forward about an inch. Yeah, side to side, I think we're dead on though. All right, so I'm just gonna grab a pry bar, move this thing forward, and I could show you right here, actually, those frame horns, when this is forward an inch, these would contact the roll pan if I didn't roll the vehicle a little bit. So let me get this bed lined up and get the bolts back in it, and we will go from there. All right, we are bolted back up and finished. So now I'm going to redo this rat's nest of wiring that he had back here. I'm not going to rewire it all. I'm just going to try to make it a little bit neater. And like I said, replace that one, wherever it went, that one really crappy retaining ring right there. Not thrilled how they have it zip tied to the bottom of the frame or the bottom of the bed over there, but you know what? It's not my vehicle. I'm not building it. I'm just installing the parts they want me to install, and I've got to take a step back because otherwise I will start rewiring it from front to back, and it's not in the budget. So let me get this stuff hooked back up for him, and then I believe I'm actually going to put some heat shrink on these AV connectors too, because they had those just electrical tape wrapped around them like everything else. Like I just realized under this red wire, that I'll have to take off and fix because it's probably just twisted together. Oh God. These are the banes of being a perfectionist with OCD. So let me fix that stuff and then we can get moving on some other stuff. Well, I was right on one account. It is a big gauge yellow non-weather tight crimp and seal on a tiny little wire. But this one wasn't twisted together, but it's still a non-weather tight. So I'm gonna fix those two. These are all weather sealed together now, and then I can tie everything back up here. I'll put the tail lights back in, and then I'll function check and make sure, because this is all for his rear view camera right there. So then I'll function check and make sure that stuff works. Well, here we go. Good morning, ladies and gents. So we're going to get started on stripping the engine section on this 92 1500 today in preparation to install the Holley Sniper 2 and wire up the PDM, the Hyperspark 2, and get the distributor for the Hyperspark installed. What I'm first going to do, this is all stuff from the Camaro. I'm going to box that up. So either the customer can take it or we will take it and sell it because it's all good stuff. And that will give me a work area to spread my stuff out for here. Then I'm going to turn this engine over to top dead center by hand and leave it there. And then I can strip out the distributor, the throttle body, the intake manifold, and get everything cleaned up. So my plan for today is, because I'll be doing multiple things throughout the shop, is to get all that stuff stripped out of there and at least get the new intake manifold bolted down in place. There's also going to be a lot of stuff, like I said, figuring out what to do with all this wiring that we are no longer using. I'm going to, I don't know if he's ever going to use his air conditioning or not because he does not have it hooked up, but I'm going to leave that wiring in there. So I'm gonna strip this harness down a little bit. So we'll still have one main harness come up here for the things that I do need, but the stuff that I don't need, we're going to get rid of. This is not going to be a super show trucky, really clean engine bay type deal, just because it's an emissions vehicle with all this extra crap in here, and we're not slimlining that down, but it's going to look decent, you know. So let me get to cleaning over here, and then I can get the stripping stuff off over here. All right, tabletop's cleaned off. Time to start stripping some stuff off of here. So my plan of attack, take off my outside air hoses, vacuum tubes, all that stuff, pull this throttle body off, pull off all the plug wires, pull the cap off, then rotate this thing to top dead center, pull the number 1 plug so I can do that when it's on compression stroke. And then just start draining stuff. I got to put my drain bucket under here, drain the coolant, and I guess I'll be back when I get this thing stripped down. All right, so that should have been a quick little time lapse. What I have left before I can take this upper intake off is my coolant connection for that line back there, which is going to be moved to your normal front connection up here. And then those couple of bolts in that corner. I'm just going to pull the cap and rotor off and pull the distributor out, because I had forgotten, because I've worked on nothing but LS engines for probably, I don't know, the last 2-3 years, that I can actually see the lifters in the valley on the small block Chevy, so I don't need to pull a plug. I can tell exactly when I'm on compression stroke and whatnot. It's a little hot in here today, so I'm going to grab those last 3 bolts that are back there, pull the distributor out, and pull this upper intake off. I'm also going to undo everything that's on this side going to the alternator, just so I can lay this harness over here and get it completely out of my way. I don't want this old decrepit stuff, even though this looks like it's good shape, like here, it's starting to fall apart. I don't want that to break apart and fall down in the valley while the intake is off. So I'm going to do that so I can move everything over on that side. I'm going to move my negative cable out of the way. So yeah, so if I undo those two, and I think the coolant temp sensor, yeah, coolant temp sensor. I can get that whole harness out of the way and then pull this intake out. All right, so we are completely unbolted. It is loose. I'm gonna go grab the vacuum first though and clean up all the dirt and crap that are on the edges because I don't want that stuff falling into the valley. We'll clean it out anyways, and of course the oil's gonna get changed, but the less stuff that falls in there, the better. And then we'll pull this horrible design of a TBI system out of here. All right, here we go. We're gonna pull this antiquated piece of crap off of here. There'll be a little bit of coolant that spills inside the valley. That's normal. You can never really get this whole passage cleaned out. I don't know why. It's just the way it gets locked in there. But like I said, the oil will be changed after we... All right, there we go. Actually, I think this coolant that's in here might be below the level of the port, so it might be just stuck in the intake. Let's see if I can bowling ball grip this thing out of here. And yeah, I can. And there goes some of that coolant. Oh, man. Do I not miss working on these things? All right, I'll be right back. I can go find some way to put this. Let's see what we're working with under here. Besides grime from 1992. So it's actually not that bad. Well, actually, I think I spoke too soon. Yeah, there's some sludge. I'll clean as much of that out of there as I can. Sorry, I'm out of breath. It's just super hot in here today. So I am going to pull these gaskets off, clean all the gasket mating surfaces, the silicone surfaces, all that stuff. Clean the valley out, and then I think I got to do a little bit of wiring on the 75. Hey, look at that. But this is where I kind of wanted to get this down to today, because that puts me in a good position to get it all together by the end of this week. I think I'm going to have to cut those fuel lines and I have the hydraulic brake flare kit that also makes the quick connect fuel line disconnects, your normal current GM fuel line disconnects with the 2 pins. So I think I'm going to convert those over to that, and that is going to continue being my supply and return line. And I'll mount the regulator probably behind the distributor. But let me clean all this crap up and then set this thing to top dead center and give it a good wash down. Well, there we are, all cleaned up. There's still a little bit of sludge down in the valley I'm going to wipe out by hand, but gasket material is all gone. Front and rear block surfaces are cleaned. I'm going to go through my my gasket set and make sure we got the right set and everything's good. I think I'll lay the intake on here and then lay out where my coolant ports and sensors and all that stuff are going to go in it. All right, it's kind of looking like an engine again. So as always, I got a little ahead of myself and I just started rolling with it and got everything in. I had to do the mod that if you know these crappy TBI heads, these 2 center bolts are at a different angle than everything else. They do make intakes that fit them. You don't have as great a selection as you do as a regular intake. So you can do them one of 2 ways. Have them machined and you have special inserts that many companies make that you can go in there. Or you can slot them, put a big washer, clamp it all down. I believe it's 96 and up. Don't even have bolts here. You have your corner bolts and that's it. If I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's been a while since I've been under the hood of those. Distributor is in, timed. That's my position for top dead center. The little notch, just like on the Camaro that's in the cover there, that's my position for number 1 cylinder. I think the only thing, well, let me see. I haven't even looked and seen. Like a glove. Perfect. So the upper hose fits like stock. That's great. I will have to redo the vacuum hose to the back of the intake for that. I will have to add a fitting into the front of the Sniper for my PCV. And I believe that is it for vacuum lines on this. It's a standard transmission. We are getting rid of, actually, most of this stuff for the evap and charcoal canister was already broke or taken out. I don't know why they didn't just finish taking it out. Fuel lines. So that's where my fuel lines come up to. And obviously I'm putting my pressure regulator up on the firewall up there. And that's my phone going off. So what I did was look for somewhere within those fuel lines that I might be able to build off of rather than have to cut and use that hydraulic tool to make the quick connect fitting thing and everything on it. And actually, that line, the supply line, goes all the way down one piece into the fuel filter that's on the frame rail, probably, I don't know, I think it's right about this area, like midway. So I can just get that tube nut flare with a barb on it and do my 6AN line all the way up, and right above the fuel filter, the smaller side, which I think this is 5/16, and the return I believe is a 1/4 inch on this, but that also has a fitting right there. So I can tee in, or not tee in, but take those off and go right from there all the way up with soft line, which will be a lot easier to get around the back of the engine and firewall and all that to my pressure regulator that's going to be mounted up there. So that's awesome. Tomorrow we're going to get to doing that. I'm going to undo those and pull these lines out. I'm also going to see if my, where is it, throttle cable will, yeah, I believe that's going to work perfectly fine with the bracket that we got. I don't know if cruise control is going to. We'll see. I'll see if they even want to bother hooking it up, because I'm pretty sure it's already missing the VSS module. So this truck has been taken apart and had stuff, like I said, none of the AC is hooked up, but I'm going to leave those wires for him just in case. If he wants the cruise control on, if it is in fact working, which I did not test drive it to see if it's working because it's not part of what we're doing here, we can figure something out at that point. Also, yeah, so we'll have PCV going to this front, and we'll just have a breather in this back cover, so it has normal crankcase ventilation, because this used to go up to the collar that was on top of the TBI unit to be recycled back in. And that just reminds me, I'm going to grab the stock air cleaner right now and see if it actually clears everything here, because if it does, then we can put the stock air cleaner on that has the snorkel that goes right to here and everything, if the guy doesn't want to do the regular hot rod air cleaner, because it's a hot rod truck now. So I'll be right back. Well, shoot, ladies and gents, minus having to take out the little tabs there that were bolted onto the other thing, the throttle body, this actually fits, and I've checked it with that as down far as I can without those tabs. Let me raise you up here. I've checked it, so that is seated down minus those two little front tabs there, and it's not even anywhere near the throttle linkage, so that's awesome. That was the problem we were having with the Camaro. The throttle linkage was hitting the bottom of this, so we actually went with a air cleaner spacer to space up, because that one was a major drop seat air cleaner, and so we wanted to keep the air cleaner that was there, so we just went with a spacer and spaced it up to clear everything. So it looks great now. But yeah, shoot, that'll work if he wants to do that. That's cool, and that'll allow you to use the little bellows that goes over to there. Yeah, so interesting. And yeah, so we're not, like I said, we're not doing Dakota Digitals or Vintage Air or any of that stuff. So this is just going to be a strictly simple, easy Sniper Hyperspark install, besides retrofitting the truck to accept it with, this intake manifold and everything. Which I will say, the intake looks far better than that piece of crap that came out of it. But enough. I've bored you guys enough for the last, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the day. I'm going home. I will see you tomorrow, and we will get back onto this thing.